Hello friends, it's Greg here again on the Blue Feather Ephemera channel. I have an eBay store by the same name where I sell vintage magazine print advertising. We're looking at week 7 of the fourth quarter of 2025. I'm going to show you 22 outstanding advertisements that sold, and then I'm going to take you behind the store curtain. We're going to look at sales data for the fourth quarter. We're going to compare it to the previous week, to the same week last year, and then we're going to look at quarter to date of last year compared to this year. So let's get started. First up, we've got this ad from 1976. The magazine was Classic Magazine, and the advertiser is the Oaklawn Thoroughbred Race Course. And thoroughbred is spelled wrong in the title here. I know how to spell thoroughbred. I think sometimes the spell check on the phone takes over though, and I don't know why it would be wrong there, but anyway, I'm making excuses. I don't see how people find my ads sometimes with all of the typos that I make, but regardless, it sold. And what you see here is an artist rendering of thoroughbred racing there in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I sold this ad for $16.77. The ads that I have up for sale in my store cover the span of years from 1910 up through 2006. And like we did last week, we're going to start with the most recent ads. I should have said that before. 1976 was the newest ad that I sold. Here's another one from 1976. I love this one. There's a lot of military geek kind of information that you can get from this ad right here. It's a Sidewinder AIM-9L missile. And the L variant of the missile had all kinds of new cool technology. In the details of this ad, it says it right here. The AIM-9L features a marked improvement in maneuverability, accuracy, and lethality combined with the addition of an all-aspect capability. Before this variant came out, you had to be behind the aircraft that you were shooting at, so basically your missile could look in to the heat from their exhaust. But then with this variant, this missile still seeks heat, but it can get enough of the heat signature from the front aspect where you can actually launch this missile head to head or nose to nose, however you want to look at it. Another cool thing about this, it shows this missile in the picture on the right side being fired at this. It's called a drone, but what it looks like to me is a converted F-86 airplane. What they did is they put some rockets on this airplane and launched it from a rail system without a pilot. It had very basic maneuver guidance by radio control, and they called them drones, but basically it was this old airplanes that they used for targets. That's at China Lake Naval Weapons Center in California, and I sold this ad for $14.77. Next up, I've got a pair of Old Hickory ads from 1967 that went to the same buyer. Before I do that, though, I had to double check myself. That QF-86 drone that was in the last ad, that was not rocket and rail launched. I got that mixed up with earlier drone aircraft based on the F-100 and F-106 that were launched with a rocket and rail system. But anyway, don't want to get bogged down on that stuff. This is an Old Hickory ad from 1967, ran in Playboy magazine, and this one says it gets under your skin without soaking you. Here's a close-up of that ad. I sold it for $11.77. This is the second advertisement to that same customer, also Old Hickory. This one ran in Playboy as well, the same year, just a different month of the year. And in this one, it says, Old Hickory, it serves you right. I recall that the last one said it gets under your skin without soaking you. I'll show you the size of the ad here as well. Both of these identical in size. They measure less than 6 inches by less than 6 inches, roughly 5.5 inches on each side. And both of them sold for $11.77. As we continue on back in time, this one is from 1965. The company is Divco Wayne. It's a company that made various types of metal bodies, and we'll take a closer look at those in just a second. Down at the bottom, you see information about all of their various divisions and plant locations, the kinds of things that they made, and all of that. The pictures at the top just do a good job of giving you an overview, and we'll look at these. Right here, Wayne school bus bodies, and back in my day I rode on many a Wayne school bus. Down here they make travel campers and mobile home bodies and things like that. And here is the classic Divco delivery vehicle. That's what your milkman drove, and you can see the milkman in the picture here. This is basically just small delivery van type vehicles, but this is what I wanted to talk about for just a minute. You see an old style station wagon looking ambulance here. It's got the cross on the side, and this is what would roll up to an accident. Now, in rural America, I don't know if that changed over in cities much earlier. I tend to think that it did, but out here in rural America, this was the style of ambulance that you would see up through about 1980. And interesting story to share. I have a relative, or had a relative, who worked for a funeral home who drove a vehicle that looked just like this. It was a hearse, and it was just the same vehicle marked differently, but in the rural community, the funeral home supplied the hearses that served as ambulances. We didn't basically have an ambulance service. If you were in an accident, they called the funeral home to come pick you up, whether you were living or dead. That reminds me of that comedy routine called Two Things. If you see that vehicle from the funeral home roll up, you ain't got but two things to worry about. Are you headed to the hospital, or are you headed to the funeral home? I sold this ad for $16.77. This advertisement from 1963 has some cool history in it. The company is First City National Bank of Houston, Texas, and in the detail of the ad, they're attributing some of Houston's growth to the NASA Manned Spacecraft Center and the adjoining residential and commercial industrial developments. So that's basically the first half of the space race there. And at the top it says that Houston is third only behind Los Angeles and New York in terms of growth. Now, in 2024, things have changed a little bit. Houston is number 1, New York has fallen to number 4, and Los Angeles is way back at 7th place in terms of growth. I sold this ad for $13.77. This is a 1963 advertisement for the Burroughs Corporation B5000 computer system. It's a 1963 ad. That computer system was brand spanking new in 1961. In 1963, this ad says that the Marathon Oil Corporation has purchased one computer to help with petroleum exploration and also with refining and distribution. Now, the computer room that you see here houses the computer, and all of those various machines with the data banks and storage and all of that kind of stuff is basically 1/10,000th of the RAM of your typical smartphone that you might have in your hand or pocket right now, and it's 1/1,000,000th of the storage capacity of the typical smartphone. Just for reference, this computer system that you see in this room has not enough storage capacity to store the data needed to store one high-resolution photograph that might be on your phone. This ad sold for $13.77. Oh, and let's talk about cost for just a second as well. Now, in 1963, a computer like this would have cost about $1.5 to $2 million, and Marathon Oil was going to buy one of them. Now, that price adjusted for inflation would be about $15 to $20 million today. But if you wanted 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is the typical RAM in a phone, to equip that Burroughs B5000 computer back then, it would have cost in the ballpark of $80 trillion to accomplish that. and it would have required a computer that weighed nearly 40 million pounds to compute 8 RAM. Here's the perfect example of the diversity of ads that can be sold. We go from that technical computer advertisement in 1963 to this 1963 advertisement for Maybelline eye cosmetics, and it shows a before and after picture here. Only Maybelline transforms ordinary eyes into unforgettable eyes, and I sold this advertisement for $16.77. This is a 1960 advertisement, and this ran in True magazine, but not in a regular monthly issue. They made an auto yearbook, and so this is from the True Auto Yearbook, 1960. And Chevrolet is showing off the Impala. They've got a sedan, a 4-door sedan up here at the top, and they also have a 2-door sport coupe down here. Great looking cars. I sold this ad for $16.77. This advertisement from 1960 ran in a magazine called Holiday, and the product is a liqueur called Galliano, and it's from Italy. That's kind of obvious based on the color scheme here. In the details of the ad, you can just see that they're talking about the flavor of it. It says that legend has it it's distilled from golden rays of warm Italian sunshine. The bottle here stands out. Now, I don't sell many ads for liqueur, with the exception being some of the chartreuse ads that I've shown in recent videos. I sell a lot more bourbon and rum advertisements, but this one stands out because of the glass. There are a lot of collectors of bottles like you see in the picture here of a type of glass called Empoli glass, and this ad sold for $14.77. Here's another car advertisement. The last one, 1960. This one goes back to 1957, and the company is Plymouth. In the last video, we showed an ad from Plymouth Cordage Company. Had nothing to do with these cars. This is the Plymouth Car Company, and in the details here, it says that it's a rare car that rates a toast, and these gentlemen are toasting a picture of this beautiful white and gold 1957 Plymouth Fury 2-door coupe, and this went through the eBay global shipping program to a buyer in Germany for $16.77. This is a 1955 advertisement for Bell Telephone Laboratories, and in the detail it shows some equipment used by the Army Signal Corps, and basically this is telephone equipment that spans distances or gaps where cable cannot be run. So it's a multi-channel system of radio broadcast for radio telephone users, and this is a full page ad, but it's a very small format. It's 9.5 inches high by about 6 inches wide, and that is the full size format of Popular Science back in 1955. But because it's small, even though it's full page and it's really cool content, I sold this for only $11.77. This ad goes back to 1952, and it's an advertisement for the DuPont company. They're advertising a fabric called Orlon, and Orlon is used for lovely curtain fabric, as you can see in this image here. I made mention of the bride and the wedding veil and all of that for the title of the listing, and I sold it for $16.77. Going back to 1947 now, here is an ad for Welch's, and yes, that is the same company that makes grape juice, but this ad is for Welch's Fudge, and I want to show you in the detail here. This is a very small ad. In this picture, you can see that the paper measures roughly about 3 inches by 3 inches. If you crop those margins, it's about 2 by 2, and I sold it for $9.77. This ad from 1946 is for a company called Scalamandre, and they made fabrics and drapery and upholstery. and all really high-end upscale stuff. In the detail of this ad, it says that they were chosen once again to serve embassies of the U.S., this time in Peru and Australia. And you can even search and find online what types of fabrics and what colors and what weaves they were using in those various locations. They did a lot of restorations for government offices and things like that. I sold this ad for $16.77. Last week I didn't sell any World War II era advertising, and I remarked on it because I don't think that had ever happened before. Here's a World War II era ad from 1945, and who doesn't like a good Coca-Cola ad? I want to take this opportunity, though, to say that there's a lot of nuance in the market for collectible Coca-Cola advertising. Now, this image right here, it shows American GIs in Italy, and this image is featured in several formats of Coca-Cola advertising. And typically with this image, you see it in full color and full pages. This is a half-page ad in black and white from a magazine called Open Road for Boys. And that was a very small publication with I won't say minuscule circulation, but it didn't have the circulation of the bigger magazines like Saturday Evening Post and Life. And so there's just a fewer number of these advertisements out there in this size and in this format, black and white. And because of that, you see the nicer looking ones, the bigger ones, full color, selling for anywhere from $6 to $10. This half page ad, though, I was able to ask $16.77 for it, and I believe it's just because it's a more scarce image. Here's another sale from the war era. Now, this is not anything pertaining to World War II except for this. This magazine, or the publication that I took it from, is Esquire Magazine 1943, and that was a popular magazine with the soldiers because they had a lot of military-related content in there, including GI humor and cartoons and stuff like that. A lot of articles about the war and war policy and stuff, and then also the posters and centerfolds of the Varga girl pinup art and all that kind of stuff. So in this image, nothing too exciting except for the cuteness of it. You see the artist named Lundy there signed it here, and in the picture you just see this lady with a dog that has a scarf just like hers on her curly black hair, and that's one of those Scottish Terriers. And Steve and I have exchanged a few comments about Scotties and other dogs being popular in print advertising. This is not an advertisement. This is just non-advertising magazine content, and it's very small. It's about 4 inches by 5. I sold it for $11.77. This is a 1941 advertisement for the B-17 Flying Fortress, and although it's 1941, it is a World War II ad because it's in the World War II era, and it does mention war, even though it was prior to our active entry into the conflict. But this says, from the Boeing production line comes the world's fastest long-range bombers, and it goes into some detail about that in the text of the advertisement here. It shows some of their other products over on the left-hand side, including the Stearman Primary Trainer, which was produced at Wichita, Kansas. And this went back to Washington near the location of the factory. I sold this one for $23.77. This is a 1940 advertisement from Life magazine, and it's a new departure bicycle coaster brake. And in the detail, you can see that I chose the top half of the page for the primary listing image. It just had the better graphic, but this is the full image here, and they describe their products, which include also an assembly that you can install on your bicycle to give it 2 speeds instead of 1. You've got a high speed gear and a low-speed year. That was kind of fancy back in 1940. I sold this ad for $16.77. Most advertisements for the John H. Wilkins Company focus only on the coffee, but this one includes other products like tea and tea bags as well. From 1938, when you look at the detail, that's what you see right here. And I sold this ad for $11.77. This identical advertisement ran in the same publication, but in an issue that was about a year earlier. From 1937, you've got another Wilkins Coffee and Tea ad, and they ran in the Quartermaster Review. And even though it's rare for two Wilkins ads to sell during the same week, these did not go to the same customer. They went to a completely different customer living in a whole different area of the country. I sold this one also for $11.77. This is the oldest and therefore the last ad that I have to show you. This one is from the Square D Company, and I've really taken a fancy to these Square D ads from the 1930s. They have great art and imagery, and this image that you see in this ad from 1936 is characters involved in the 30 Years' War from 1618 to 1648. And you've got this fellow in front here. He is the Generalissimo. His name is Wallenstein or Wallenstein, Duke of Friedland. And it talks about their 30 Years' War. And it says that the Square D Company has also been waging a 30 Years' War against inefficiency in power transmission. And that company made a lot of basically apparatus and power transmission appliances that helped spread the electrical infrastructure throughout the country. I sold this ad for $18.77. During this entire series of fourth quarter sales videos, the whole point is to get a grasp on the numbers, and that's what we'll do now. At the end of each video, we look at these screenshots from my store's sales data, and you can see here that in this week that we just reviewed, I sold 22 ads and the total sales revenue was $438. In the blue box over on the right, it shows you that my net profit was $207.48, but I had in packing materials a cost of about $38, so that means that my actual net profit was more like $170. My average sales price for each sale, $19.94. On this view, I've just overlaid the same image with data from the previous week. So this is last week of sales, week 6, versus the current week, week 7. And you can see that last week, sales were very slow last week. $255 was the total sales revenue for week 6. And my net, after you considered the shipping materials, was just about $125 or $130 there. I sold exactly half the items, a quantity of 11 then, but my average sales price was higher at $23.23. That's week over week. This is the same sales report once again, but it's overlaid this time with sales data from the same week 1 year ago. So back in the fourth quarter of 2024, that's the data we're comparing to. And this is the second week in a row when sales totals were a little bit higher last year than they were this year. Last year during the same week, my total sales revenue was $510, about $70 higher. And over on the right side in the blue box, my total net sales profit was about $75 higher at $282. Again, disregard selling material costs there. But one thing you might notice is that my average sales price is a little bit higher this year. And so why was profit a little bit lower then? Well, selling costs on the top line, selling costs were lower last year, even though I sold 4 items more, and that's attributable to a lower postage cost. And also it's likely that some of those sales during that same week last year were multiples. I only had one multiple this week. That's where you could put 2 ads in the same envelope. That really cuts down on the postage cost, so that might account for the difference there. This is a different report that I clipped from my eBay store. This covers the entire quarter to date. So we're looking at October the 1st through November the 18th of 25. Total sales revenue, $3,598 on 174 sales, with an average sales price of $20.68. Net sales profit, $1,793. Now, the numbers look pretty good, but without context, it's hard to tell. So let's overlay last year's numbers and see how it looks. Now that we can see last year's numbers that I've overlaid here, they are in the boxes with the black borders. You can see that during the fourth quarter of 2024 up through November the 18th, last year's gross sales revenue was $2,352, and currently we're about $1,250 higher than that. The sales volume, 174 this year compared to 123 last year. My average sales price is about $1.50 a head, and my net revenue, when you consider the cost of packing materials, I'm still about $600 profit above last year's numbers. I'm eager to show you what's in store for the remainder of the fourth quarter. I've got some great sales to show you coming up, and I hope you'll tune in for that. If you'd like to see me review even more great vintage advertising, or if you're interested in how the remainder of the fourth quarter sales unfolds, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss videos. While you're at it, hit the like button, and if you know someone else who'd appreciate this content, send them a link. And of course, as always, I'd love it if you'd leave a comment, even if it's just a friendly hello. Bye for now.